What's good, everybody? My name's Kyle. You may know that, you may not. But today we're going to be talking about the UFO Brewer from two of our dear friends, Kenzie Chay and Jay Kim. Kenzie works in one of our cafes and is kind of the engineering mind behind this concept. And Jay Kim is what I would call best a friend of the family. So they created this brewer that they call the UFO, which the biggest difference in this particular brewer is the angle of the sides. It does quite a few things, but what it does for flavor is mostly what I'm going to talk about today because I'm not a scientist or a physicist or particularly good at math. So what the sides being angled like this do is it creates a broader kind of brew bed, if you will. So it increases turbulence a tiny bit, or allows for the increase in turbulence, which you kind of have to keep an eye on. But it also kind of mimics two styles of brewers in what I would say is the best of both worlds kind of concept. So you have the shallow brew bed with lots of turbulence, but you also have the cone shape to give you a little bit more complexity. So I would say this is somewhere in between, say, an Orea V3 and a Hario V60 or any of those, that style of brewer. It does have a limited bypass allowance, so you're not going to get the crazy bypasses you might get out of an Origami. But again, the cone shape, so big, high complexity, but the big sweetness and texture you'd get out of a zero bypass brewer, like say the Orea. So I love this brewer. Let's get to brewing. Tools of the trade that we're going to be working with today are, of course, the newest version of the Triton UFO brewer that we muled back from Korea. All taxes and fees paid for sure. I love the fellow tally scales. This is the negotiator that Jay had made for a previous version, but once the new Severus filters come out, there'll be no need for these because they're going to be perfectly folded or perfectly cut just for the brewer. Since we have a little bit more of a brew bed, I enjoy a nice WDT tool to kind of get all the grounds out to the edges without having to do it with your hand. My favorite, you may know this, you may not, Comandante C60, it's freaking sick. And of course I already said it, Severus fast filters. So we're gonna be kind of doing a low fermentation recipe, but I'll also talk about the high fermentation recipes as we go along. So the biggest difference between high fermentation recipes for me and low fermentation recipes for me is contact time. So I'm gonna utilize a grinder to slow the brew down a tiny bit, also brew the tiny bit hotter water. So if I would like I'm gonna be shooting for closer to 3 minutes, where with a higher fermentation coffee, I might shoot for closer to 2:15 to 2.5 minutes. So again, your mileage may vary, your water will vary dramatically, so mostly just enjoy. Let's get to it. One thing that I want to make mention of about this particular brewer is because the surface area on top is so large because of the angle that the cone is shaped, you can get quite a lot of turbulence. So you do have to kind of keep that in mind as you're brewing. You may have to brew a tiny bit different than maybe you're accustomed to. So basically, if you notice the coffee is a bit dry, it may not necessarily be your grind setting, but it may be the technique you're employing to add the water to the coffee. So again, that's one of the things I've noticed about this brewer. It can make a ton of complexity, ton of sweetness, but it can run a tiny bit on the dry side, so just keep that in mind. Oh, nice, brew's on. It is interesting that it's on the heavier side, so it's bigger, rounder, fuller, like super peach, crazy like bergamot, like almost like Earl Grey tea, but like way heavy because it's again that 1:15 ratio, so exemplifying body and sweetness. For this coffee, it may actually have like a ratio closer to 1:16, 1:16.5 maybe, but again, huge, super sweet, lovely balance, great acidity. Yeah, I really like this brewer. I'm really excited to see what I can find with it. Since this is, I don't know, my third or fourth cup to brew on it, I haven't dug as deep into the wilder coffees as I typically do with brewers, but I'm really excited to see what we can find potentially in a season near you next time.